Okay, identify the number you know has been placed incorrectly and explain how you know. If you're pretty good at doing your benchmarks, you'll know that 2/3 is 0.66, and that would be repeating. And then you know that's less than 75. You know 83 is more. The only one you got a question on is this guy right here. So really, out of these three, this one's in the proper order way down here. This one is in the proper order here, and this one's here. But if you didn't know this was 2/3 was that, you could go ahead and go 2 divided by 3, and you'd get that number. The other option is you could always find a common denominator and change them all to fractions. So here's your fractions you've got, 2/3. Here's the one up here, 75 hundredths would be 75 over 100, like that. You could then look at 5/6, so 5/6, and then you can look at 83 hundredths, so it would be 83 over 100. So really the only one you need to know is this one and this one. So let's compare these two guys here. We could change this to 6 real easy, just times it by 2. And if we times the bottom number by 2 and the top number by 2, we'll end up with 4 over 6. So we know this is supposed to come before this guy. But now we got to figure out between these two. How can we make the bottom numbers the same on both of these? Well, perhaps the easiest way to do it, because I don't know how many times 6 will go in 100, it's not going to go evenly, is to just times it by each other. So times this by 6, and times this by 100. And then times this by 100. So you'll end up with these two numbers. You'll end up 500 over 600. And then you will end up with 6 times 75. Well, we know the bottom number is going to be 600. And then we need 6 times 75. So 75, and we're going to times it by 6. 6 times 5 is 30. 7 times 6 is 42, 43, 44, 45. So it's 4, 5 there. So we have 450. Now it looks to me like they're in the same. So we've just changed these two to the same bottom number, same denominator. Let's change this one just to make sure. Well, if you got 83 over 100, what will we have to do to make this 100 become 600 so that it's the common denominator? Well, if we times 6 times 100, we'll get 600. So this is what we'll have on the bottom, 600. And then we're going to times 83 times 6, just on the side here. 3 6s are 18. 8 6s are 48, 49. So it's 498. Right away, we know this one's good, this one's good. This one should come way somewhere in between here. And if we wanted to, we could change 2/3 to something over 600. Just times it by 200. And when we do that, we'll end up with 400 over 600. So the easiest way to compare them is change them all to fractions and then write them with the same common denominator on the bottom. Some are easier than others. For example, when you look at B here, you'll have 6 over 5, 9 over 8. I mean, you're going to have to change these to the same denominator. So you'll have to make this one, this 5 could change to 10, but then what would the 8 have to change to? Okay, so you could probably change it to, oh, perhaps 80. 80 might work. And you could compare these three then. You would change this to 1 and 15 over 100, which of course would be 115 over 100 if you change it to an improper fraction. So again, some denominators are really easy to change and some are a little bit harder, and sometimes you don't have to change them at all. All right, section 3.3, adding and subtracting decimals. Estimating first is a good skill to know because it can tell you whether or not your answer is even close. So let's just do a quick estimate here for these right here. What does this round off to the nearest whole number? Well, it's 5 decimal something, and it's 5 decimal 7. So it's more than halfway to 6. So we're going to say 6. And what would 3.94 round off to? Nice even 4. 6 plus 4 is 10. So we know it's going to round off to about 10 will be your answer. This one right here, well, we already rounded it once off to 6. We already rounded this off to 4. So 6 take away 4 is about 2. And so estimate your decimals first. Doesn't matter how long they are in the back, because this number here is the bigger number, the whole number. I'm going to do an example of 1. If I were to take a number 3.175 and I would like to add that to 2.01. First step is first. Line up the decimal places with each other and make sure each number is in line right after the decimal place. So this one's in line with this one one's in line with this one's in line with nothing because there's nothing there, so we put a 0 there. And then, of course, this one's in line with this one. So you line up the decimals. That's the most important part. So I'm going to do that and add my 0 at the end. And then it's just a matter, if you're adding, you just start from the way you would add it normally. I would put my decimal down here right away so you don't forget and go 5 plus nothing is 5. 7 plus 1 is 7. 1 plus nothing is 1. 3 plus 2 is 5. If you're doing this one subtraction, you might have to borrow from some of these and you might not. But subtraction and addition are pretty easy when you keep the decimals in line with each other. No matter how long they are, at the end you always put the decimals in line, and then if you need a few extra zeros just to have something there to keep its place, you can do that.